Hello, I'm Tabitha. I'm going to talk about Thomas Cole. Thomas Cole was an English-born American landscape artist who lived from 1801 to 1848. A painting of his that stood out to me is Aqueduct near Rome, painted in 1832. It portrays a landscape surrounded by light and nature despite the large aqueduct cutting through it. The composition is one of the aspects that caught my eye, making the viewer look along the length of the aqueduct, thus enabling them to fully appreciate how nature has taken advantage of the structure to create something prepossessing. Cole's formative experiences as an artist, which are reflected in Aqueduct near Rome, largely took place during the Romantic period. This can be seen in his work, which is heavily influenced by this movement. But out of all of the Romantics, why is Thomas Cole so important? He is widely considered the first significant American landscape painter. His Romantic style paintings are influenced by European painters, but with a great appreciation for America's culture and natural beauty. He was prolific throughout his career, working primarily on oil and canvas, which enabled him to capture the vibrancy and detail of nature and architecture. I think that the Romantic movement was important in stirring up a sense of nostalgia and creating a campaign for societal change. This movement in art includes many landscapes untouched by humans. Although at this time industrialization was still fast progressing, Cole had a major impact on what people viewed as beauty in landscapes. His innate appreciation for nature, which highlights its almost exotic beauty, can be seen throughout his work. Although human buildings are present in many of his paintings, they are depicted as working with nature instead of against it. The Hudson River School of Landscape Painting movement was present in America as an outgrowth of the Romantic movement. Consequently, many of the artists from this movement employed similar techniques to that of the Romantics. However, it was strongly nationalistic in its celebration of the natural beauty of the raw American landscape. The movement was led by Thomas Cole, Thomas Doughty, and Asher Durand, who all worked on paintings untouched by nature and revered its delicacy and detail. Unlike the others, Cole was more strongly influenced by the Romantics and favoured the stormy and monumental aspects of nature. This can be seen in several of his paintings, as they include crumbling buildings damaged by nature itself and the passage of time. An area of Aqueduct near Rome which I find interesting is the fact that the aqueduct itself is raised from the painting, which at first glance could suggest that Cole is commemorating society's grand structures and ability to harness the natural landscape for their own use. However, I believe that this is not the case, and Cole is instead highlighting nature's power by emphasising its ability to overcome the large obstruction and reclaim the landscape. Another aspect of the composition that I find important is the end of the aqueduct cannot be seen, drawing the viewer's eye into the painting. This emphasises the front of the aqueduct, where nature is most prevalent, and yet still working harmoniously with the building structure. Depth is also created here, with the viewer's attention drawn across the plate of the painting into the past. The aqueduct is still standing in the distance, which I believe leads the viewer to reflect on both humans and nature's past, ending in amicable coexistence. The light bathing the aqueduct creates a warm, inviting atmosphere, which makes the viewer appreciate the infinite beauty. The warm lighting also creates a sense of harmony, almost as if humanity and nature may one day have the ability to work together. Aqueduct near Rome was created during Cole's trip to Europe, to explore his morals and religion through the painting. The use of the greyer sky and the power of nature destroying things in its path reflects Romantic styles and ideas. This painting resonated with me because of the way it portrays the Romantic idea of how nature can create harmony even where human infrastructure has invaded the natural landscape. This feeling of harmony is exaggerated by the warm lighting, which creates a sense of hope. Romantics, as a movement, believed nature was transfigured into a living force and held together as a unity. It was infused with a comprehensive symbolism, resting on its profound moral and emotional connection with human subjectivity. The once grand aqueduct which supplied the vast city of Rome with water, has been crumbled into disuse by the power of nature. In many of Cole's paintings, nature seems to be returning the landscape to its former glory, bringing light and colour into the world. This reflects some of Cole's influences, John Constable and J.M.W. Turner. Much of Turner's work employs angelic lighting, which has connotations of new beginnings. I think that this has been a significant inspiration for Cole in this painting, which includes the purple sky and the light suffused with warm colours of nature and the honeyed stone of the fallen aqueduct. The purple and orange are complementary colours here, bringing harmony but also contrast into the painting, making them stand out from each other, creating further depth. Turner also uses complementary colours in his paintings, often orange and purple as well, creating an energised yet relaxed atmosphere. However, Aqueduct near Rome differs from Turner's paintings because of the more detailed style in which he paints. Cole uses a wet brushing technique to create a blended yet realistic depiction of the landscape and a breathtaking outcome. The intricate details and purple shadows in the plants elevate the painting, skillfully conveying Cole's romantic ideals. The attention to detail reflects another of Cole's influences, John Constable. Constable used oil paints to create a detailed yet realistic take on the world and nature. He was also romantic, which further reinforces the reasons for Cole's style. Many of Constable's paintings are of Salisbury Cathedral, in which he depicts its intricate architecture. His composition shows how the cathedral sits within nature and flows with it instead of working against it. This aspect of Constable's work comes through strongly in Aqueduct near Rome, which highlights how much Cole's ideals are those revere nature and its ability to almost command the landscape. Cole's painting differs from both of these artists as he explored the idea of time through the long, winding structure of the aqueduct leading into the distance. Whilst Turner looks at the rawer aspects of nature, and Constable focuses primarily on the harmonious coexistence between architecture and nature, Cole looks at not only these ideas, but how this has changed over time. This enables the viewer to gain an understanding of Cole's thought process when he was painting Aqueduct near Rome, as he engages in the past, present, and the future. To me, this aspect of Cole's work sets it apart from other romantic painters. In my opinion, this painting beautifully conveys Cole's thoughts and beliefs about humanity, nature, and their interactions. I believe that this painting creates a tranquil and uplifting atmosphere, drawing the viewer into an almost false sense of hope and fantasy that reflects the work of romantics who were infatuated with the idea of the exotic. Cole had a complicated relationship with the idea of departure that he explored in many of his paintings, but is particularly prominent in this one, the departure. This is because Cole and his family were forced to emigrate from England as they were struggling. During his immigration, he met many wealthy Americans who commissioned him to create paintings that provided him with enough money to explore Europe. As a result, Aqueduct near Rome was created. Cole went to Europe to create a higher style of landscape that could express his moral and religious beliefs, including, as seen in the painting, the exploration of time. I believe that Cole decided to paint the crumbling aqueduct as a way to communicate his experiences of having to immigrate from his home. The painting reflects this as Cole depicts the downfall of the Roman Empire, using it as a metaphor for his forced departure from his home in Europe and the destruction of his life as he knew it. Aqueduct near Rome also embodies Cole's religious beliefs, as there are many obvious religious symbolisms present in the painting. For example, the warm, bright lighting that creates a sense of hope as an angelic nature. Cole was a part of the Episcopal Church, a division of Christianity who believed in loving, liberating, and life-giving God. Their values can be seen in this painting as the aqueduct is taken over by nature and the landscape seems to be liberated of human destruction. The painting is full of life, which can be seen through the detailed, almost photorealistic depiction of the plants, reinforcing the idea of a life-giving God. Cole's morals can also be seen in this painting, as he held out hope for the harmonious coexistence of the human and the natural. These morals were central to Cole's identity and are reflected strongly in this painting. as although nature has taken over, there is still balance where the remaining structure has been used to support and enhance the landscape. Thomas Cole, to me, used an impressionistic yet in close place realistic technique to emphasise the beauty that he experienced when exploring the details of this landscape. His innate appreciation for the landscape has elevated this painting so the viewer too can appreciate the natural beauty of Aqueduct near Rome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tabitha. You talked about harmony where humanity has invaded, and I was just wondering, why do you think these paintings were popular? Why do you think people wanted these paintings on their walls at this particular time? What was the appeal?
I think so before Cole was present, there was a very big uprise in the 16th century Dutch artwork, which portrayed a very stripped back version of the landscape, where there was no nature present, it was just human infrastructure, usually burnt fields and stuff. And I think because this was present after this time, it was such a large change, especially in America, where he was most prevalent compared to what had been popular then, that it almost inspired people to look into more these types of paintings.
Thank you.
Thank you.